Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today we bring to you the Bearded Dragon Care video. Bearded dragons are one of the most popular reptiles and lizards in the pet industry. Reason being is that these guys, full grown, get about 18 to 22 inches, somewhere in that range. Some can stay a little bit smaller. There are some species that stay a little bit smaller, as well as some bloodlines that get a bit larger. Okay, but on average, that's about where they're at. Live about 10 years, great temperaments. That's one of the reasons why they're so popular. Easy to work with, easy to handle. They're not running off your hand. A lot of people I'll see walking around with them just sitting on their shoulder, not aggressive. Feeding wise, they're primarily insectivores. They're gonna feed on small insects, especially when they're this size. As they get older, they'll eat more larger insects like hornworms, roaches, but they're also gonna eat a variety of different greens and even some fruit. I know some people will on occasion feed some of their larger bearded dragons, even small rodents, okay? As long as it's not a main part of their diet, it should be fine. Basic care for a bearded dragon. If you're gonna start off with a baby, you probably wanna start off with something like a 20-gallon tank. We're gonna set this guy up here. He'll hang out with us for a little bit. You wanna start him off with a 20-gallon tank. I'd recommend a screen top because you're gonna put some heat lamps on top, maybe even some clips on the side. That way, as your bearded dragon gets bigger, he can't push off the top. Full grown, you're gonna probably wanna set him up in something like a 30 or 40-gallon breeder. But this size tank for a baby is gonna last them probably at least a year, year and a half. Basic requirements, let's start at the bottom. We've got our substrate. In most of our kits, we do recommend the sand mats. Some people will do paper towels. It's fine if you're changing it out regularly, but if you want that kind of naturalistic sand look, you can do a sand mat, or even, I'm gonna say it, calcium sand. I know that there are people that are like, no, you should never, use sand for bearded dragons. Here's the reality, guys. In the wild, they live on dirt, okay? They are around it all the time. Is there a possibility for impaction? Sure, there's a possibility of your bearded dragon eating paper towel if you set them up on that and getting impacted. There's all sorts of things that can cause impaction. Calcium sand is generally one of those sands that is a little bit easier for the animal to process, and most bearded dragons, unless it's got some sort of like mental issue, aren't generally gonna wanna sit there and just eat sand. It usually happens on accident, and usually not in large enough quantity that would cause serious impaction. But if you want to avoid, all possibility of that, definitely go with the sand mats, or definitely go with paper towels or some sort of tiles I know folks use. Heating should be you should have a heat basking spot as well as a UVB. You want a basking spot that'll sit in the low hundreds with ambient temperature on the cool side of the tank in the low to mid 80s. You want to make sure that there's a nice gradient. I know some people look at that animal and go, 20-gallon tank, we could just stick that bad boy in a 5 or 10-gallon tank. The problem with that is that you're dealing with an animal that needs a heat gradient. These are cold-blooded animals, so they need to be able to raise their body temperature by basking, which also helps speed up their metabolism, and then lower it, okay, by getting cooled, all right? Now, when you set your sand mat up, you also want to make sure that you're putting on it some what I call basking logs or wood pieces like grapevine. Some people use like the huts and stuff like that. Basically what you want to do is create a higher platform for the animal to go sit under and bask in, get that really, really hot spot when they need it. And then again, the cooler side should be a much lower side. You can put all sorts of decoration if you like the cactus look, whatever you like. Some people put skulls. That's entirely up to you. But definitely want to make sure you have a higher platform for the animal to bask in. Water dish, okay, and a food dish are probably essential. If you don't want to put the food directly on the mat or paper towel, you can put some food, some of the dry foods, even some of the vegetation in a food dish. Water dish should be a nice shallow water dish. Now, it's really important to know an occasional soaking or bath is okay for bearded dragons, but you want to be very careful. These animals come from a lower humidity environment, which means that if you sit there and soak your bearded dragon constantly or create too humid or too wet of an environment, they're going to develop fungal issues. That's really common with people that put too much moisture in the environment, so don't do that. Also, it's important to note that you want a high output UVB, something like a 10.0 UVB, or I think the Exoterra bulbs, they call them the 200s or something along those lines. High output desert UVB is what you need, all right? Some people do the solar glow bulbs, which is, basically a one side, one bulb that puts out both heat and UVB. That's fine as well. Also, as a side note, you want to make sure that you're dusting your insects and all foods with the calcium and multivitamin. Here's one right here. Here's calcium with D3. You definitely want to make sure that you're utilizing calcium with D3. Show you here. Exo makes a good brand. Zoomed. There's a few different brands out there. And then I also recommend a multivitamin. Me personally, I like Reptivite because of the vitamin A that's included. There's some other great multivitamins out there, but you definitely want to be dusting alternately. So one day you use calcium, the next day you use a multivitamin, and switch back and forth. As babies, these guys need to eat daily. As adults, the meals can be separated a little bit further. Every other day, every 2 days is fine. Our kits that we include, or one of the things that we include, I should say, in our kits, and also recommend, because of the amount of insects these guys are gonna eat, you probably don't wanna go down and pick up crickets or worms every day. So having what we call cricket keeper, making sure that you have cricket food for your bearded dragon, is also a must-have, at least for convenient purposes. That also, the food keeps your crickets alive and also fortifies them with additional vitamins. Overall, I would say that bearded dragons are an easier reptile to keep. It's definitely, I always hesitantly say beginner reptile, because I don't know if there is such a thing as keeping a beginner animal, but it's definitely one of the easier ones. Less complex setups, longer lived, hardier species, great to work with, and overall just a rewarding animal to have. They come in a variety of different color morphs now, different pattern morphs. There are tons to choose from. And also, if you're looking for a breeding project to possibly get into in the future and breed some of your own baby bearded dragons, they're a fairly easy species to start working with and breed. And the babies, you know, again, if cared for properly, are generally pretty hardy and easy to care for. And don't forget, guys, Barry the Bearded Dragon says make sure you like, you subscribe, you follow, what else, George? What are they supposed to do?
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell, get notifications, do all that stuff so you can get more stuff from us, more videos, more notifications. Let us into your lives, please. That's it for the Bearded Dragon. I hope this was informative for you guys, and look forward to sending you some of these guys in the future.